So in the first episode, we've covered what line and wash is. In the second episode, we drilled down into the sort of equipment you need. And this episode is going to be all about the line work. Obviously, the next one is all about the wash work. So we're going to be looking at some different techniques in this episode for line work. We're going to be looking at continuous line drawing, a dot-to-dot approach of constructing a drawing. We can also look at seeing shapes within your reference image, whether to use pencil or not. That's kind of, we'll probably finish on that. So it shouldn't be too much of a long one, but yeah, thanks for stopping by and let's get cracking with this tutorial. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be looking at a reference drawing, which is of Island Dun and Castle, and it's Celine Gurick from Unsplash. I will put a reference downstairs in the description, and you can find that on my website. You can find that image on my website. So the first technique I think we're going to look at here is a continuous line drawing. Now what I need to do is split up this page into 4. So here I'm going to do a quick continuous line drawing. Now I've talked about a lot of continuous line drawings, and I've even got a whole episode on my channel dedicated to continuous line drawings as an exercise, which I'll put a post up for that. So that's the sort of continuous line method. Now, another way of actually approaching your drawings is, particularly if you're working with pen, and most of these I'm focused on working with pen, is what I call a sort of join the dot technique, where if you're not sure about an image in terms of like the overall proportions, you can do some dots. Now I know the width of that bit there, it's about the same width to the big vertical in the middle, so I'll put that in, and then actually from that vertical to that vertical is about the same distance to the other side, so I know. So what I'm doing is I am looking at, and that's about there, that chimney's about there, I'm looking at proportions. So thinking in shapes. Now people talk about this a lot, and I think one of the useful things about this technique is it really makes you look. So you're basically, what you're doing is you're breaking down a building into a series of shapes, which I guess is probably pretty much what sketching is anyway. So then this becomes a square here, and then this is a slightly bigger rectangle here. Now the final technique, which I think in many ways is probably the most interesting, is a really sketchy approach where you literally keep the, it's almost like a continuous line drawing, but it involves having, I suppose, the confidence just to put a mark on paper and not really think about it. It's very similar to an exercise called blind drawing, where you really don't look at the paper very much. Now I'm really trying not to look at the paper at all, and I'm just being super loose, and I'm not really trying to be accurate. I am just So as I say, this is a bit of a cheat in a sense, because it's kind of like 2 sketches in one. But as a technique, it's definitely worth having a play with. And I think anything that keeps you loose and frees you up from that little drawing that we all seem to get stuck on is, I think I know I was banging about gestural drawing, but it's the idea where you're going and not being too colouring book-esque about, you know, the marks that you make or the colours that you put down. I think a lot of the time for me it's marks that tell stories, and if you can put a mark down and it tells a story, more the better. So say for example you're going to put an outline in here, you could go and do that, or you could describe, you know, some of the stonework, and here you've got the bridge. That could be a straight line, or you could really say here's a bridge made of stone. And likewise with this area in here, and with the cliffs, and again this stone wall here, make it a stone wall, make it stony and rocky. So there you go. I'm not going to kind of complete these sketches because I want to leave them here to show you the sort of different techniques. So the continuous line drawing here, is that how you spell continuous? Oh, I don't know. Now that is a fantastic exercise, and I definitely would recommend it for any warm-up sketching or anything. The dot technique is really useful to try. I think the finding of the shapes again is a wonderful technique. I'll call it scruffy lines. So those are 4 different techniques you can try with your line work. Now I think what ultimately will happen is if you practice those different techniques and try them for different things, is you'll ultimately end up bringing one element from both. Or, as I do, is you'll start with that for one drawing because you're not really thinking, and that's what you'll use. And then the next day you'll sit down and you'll think, oh, I'll have a go at something a bit more crazy. I hope you enjoyed those four different techniques. As I said before, I think, you know, a combination of all those 4 is ultimately where we all end up. But it's always good to do drawing exercises to learn new stuff. Finally, I just want to say something a little bit about pencil. Now, I tend to use a mechanical pencil here, and they are very good. And if I'm planning a sketch, I will do provisional pencil drawings. Not always, but I do. But what I would say is whenever you use pencil as the basis, particularly if you're going to put line work on top of it, what happens is there's a level of sort of refinement that goes down where the pencil sketch can be quite nice and free and loose, and then the ink work that goes onto it becomes tighter. But if the line work ends up being quite tight, and then it becomes like a colouring book, the way that the watercolor or paint is applied, it can be a bit soulless. That's just my opinion. Everyone likes different things. So I tend to like working with the immediacy of pen and rolling with the punches. You know, no perfection, just play. And if you get a bit of ink spilled or you have an extra line here, then there's 2 things there. It teaches you to become a lot more philosophical about the end result, because at the end of the day you're sitting down to sketch and to enjoy your time. It's like going for a walk. You don't come back from that walk and go, oh, it was a lovely walk, but how was I walking? You know, you don't analyse your gait. You don't say, did I walk fast enough or slow enough? It's just a nice walk. That's what a sketch should be. It's not, there's no competitive element, and it's not a score at the end of it. It's not golf, it's a walk, and those are 2 separate things. So for me, I would say, just in conclusion, that for me, I think using a pencil sometimes can end up taking a bit of the life out of the process. But that's not to say you couldn't use a thick pencil or a heavy pencil as your line element. Now that's not something that I do very much, because I love ink and I love pen, and I like the contrast. I like quite contrasty art stuff. Okay, so before I sign off, I want to give a couple of honourable mentions to line and wash artists who have inspired me. I think Peter Sheila, I'll put a link below to his stuff. Pretty simple videos, just him doing some really simple sketches, and you can, paint along with him. That was kind of a big influence on me, really. And I would also say John Harrison. Now, John hasn't a lot of work on YouTube, but he's a fabulous artist, and he does some amazing workshops throughout the north of England, and he's got originals and things for sale. So I'll put a link below to John Harrison's YouTube channel, and that will link you to his website and stuff. So this has been episode 3 of my line and wash series. Episode 4 is all about the wash, so it's all about colour. So I really hope you can hang about for that. I'll try and put a link up here somewhere. So thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you'll get something from it. Please leave a comment or a like or subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Only about, I think, 40% of the people who watch these videos are subscribers. So if we could just get a few more on board, that would be wonderful. You can always buy me a coffee to say thanks. There's a link in my description below. I'll pop over to my website where I've got some original artwork still for sale, I think. And yeah, thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Cheers now, bye.